Alright, you guys, so I have another story that I'd like to share that maybe you can share with your little ones, and it'll help bring some insight to your relationship. Anyway, this one in particular is about the school system and the competition it creates. So, once upon a time there was a raven named Pete. And Pete lived out in the desert, and he had 10 brothers and 10 sisters. Now every day, Pete and his brothers and sisters, they would fly out to a huckleberry bush that grew in the middle of the desert, because every day some of those huckleberries would be ripe. Now because there were a lot of birds and just a few berries, there was a lot of competition. There was pushing and shoving and fighting and flapping, all to try and gobble up those berries as fast as they could. Now Pete, he loved huckleberries, but he didn't like the competition. He didn't like the way it made him feel, and he didn't like fighting with his brothers and sisters. So he decided that he was going to get his food someplace else, and so he left. And as he wandered out through the desert, he happened to wander under a prickly old tree, and something on the ground caught his eye. It was round and shiny. It had a dot on one side. It was a seed, and so Pete, he ate it. Now this seed, it was not as tasty as a huckleberry, but it filled up his belly, and he did not have to have the competition in order to get it. So Pete started eating the seeds from this desert willow tree. Now there he was, filling up his belly, when all of a sudden, his brothers and sisters, they saw that he had something good. They all said, "I want some!" And they flew over and started pushing and shoving and squawking and flapping and fighting and gobbling up those seeds. And pretty soon there was nothing left. Now Pete, he threw his wings up in the air and he said, "Competition, not again." And he left. And he happened to wander out onto a pile of rocks, and he was just sitting there thinking about what he might eat next, when one of the rocks right near his feet, it wiggled and startled him. But being that he was brave and curious, he bent down to see what it was. When he looked under the rock, he saw some legs. Not just a few, lots of legs. So using his beak, he flipped it over, and it was a big, fat, juicy centipede. And so he gobbled it up. And he learned that the bugs liked hiding under the rocks, and so he used his beak to flip them over. And he found roly-polies and crickets and earwigs. He was having so much fun catching his lunch. When all of a sudden, his brothers and sisters, they saw that he had something good, and they said, "I want some!" And they started pushing and shoving and fighting and flapping and squawking and gobbling up those bugs. And pretty soon, the whole place looked like there had been an explosion, and there was nothing left. Pete, he threw his wings up in the air. He said, "Competition, not again." And he left. And now Pete was thinking, and he realized that this competition, not only was it not for him, it really wasn't good for his family either. See, his brothers and sisters, they were always fighting. At home, they were fighting over their place in line. They were fighting over their perch in the tree, over their toys, just always fighting. And so Pete thought, you know what? I want to help my family. I need to find something that there is a lot of, so that there's enough to go around and I can share it. Now, there's not a lot of anything in a desert, but there was one thing. There were a lot of cactuses. Now, not many things eat a cactus because of those sharp spines, but a cactus is full of sugar water. So Pete decided he was going to figure it out. Now he started by just trying to eat it, and those spines, whew, they got stuck in his mouth. But then he tried a tool. He went and got a stick, and he poked it into the side of the cactus, but all of that good sugar water, it dribbled down the sides and into the rocks. But he didn't give up. He kept experimenting, and eventually he found that if he got a hollow stick, and if he poked it in at an angle in just the right way, the sugar water would drip out of the end. Oh, so there he was, enjoying his nice sweet drink on that warm desert day, when all of a sudden, his brothers and sisters, they saw that he had something good. They all said, "I want some!" And they flew over, and they were gonna start pushing and shoving and fighting. But Pete said, "Wait!" He said, "Stop, you guys, hold on." He said, "Let me show you how to do it for yourself." And so he showed them where to find these hollow sticks. and he showed them which cactus are the really juicy ones, and he showed them how to poke it in just the right way. And pretty soon, all of his brothers and sisters were spread out all over the garden, desert, all over the desert, getting food for themselves. And at this point, Pete, he looked back, and that huckleberry bush was full of ripe huckleberries. And so he got to eat huckleberries after all. The end. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. As you can see, it was totally inspired by the school system, and it's been a really valuable framework for me to be able to present those concepts and get the kids thinking about relationships in a different way. I can get even, the kindergartners to throw their wings up in the air with me and recognize and say, competition, not again, and kind of help them to turn away from it, because at that young age, they only know that their needs aren't being met. And so, the system is designed to drive them towards competition, because that validates the use of authority, control over them. Look, this group of 22 5-year-olds can't, behave themselves on their own. Well, we threw 22 5-year-olds into a room and said they can't leave and can't have toys. And anyway, so it's a really good framework. So, if your kids, hopefully you don't have kids in the school system, but if you do, maybe this story can give you some empathy and connection with them, help them to just go through these challenges that they're facing. And if you're homeschooling, it still has value. Hopefully you can recognize this balance of competition and cooperation, because they're going to meet that kind of competition out in society, out in the real world. So we all get a chance to be like Pete. That's what I encourage the kids to do. That's what I try and role model. I'm Pete, and I want to show them these cool things, and they get to be like Pete when they go and spread out in these school gardens, and then don't fight for my attention, and don't fight for the things that I'm sharing, that we just, our relationship can shift just because of that recognition and that playful, not again, but yeah, it happens. So anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.